My Hometown Cursed Land. Part 7. The Ghost of the Drowned. In Vietnamese folklore, there's a terrifying entity called the water ghost, the spirit of someone who drowned tragically and couldn't move on. Locals believe these restless souls gather at noon and night, searching for a living person whose soul matches theirs, so they can drag them into the water and take their place in the afterlife. Years after the eerie stories my grandparents had told, this time it was something I witnessed with my own eyes. It happened right in front of me, on a calm stretch of the Red River, where my friends and I used to gather. On the Gia Lam side of Hanoi, near Ngoc Tui, there's a long, sandy riverbank exposed when the water recedes. Back then, when the river's level dropped, the land revealed itself like a promised land. Vast, fertile. Locals would grow vegetables, harvest corn, dig sand. Even trucks could drive in. Each year, after the river rose and receded again, it left behind a natural lake, a deep pit filled with rainwater, lying close to the riverbank. My house was only about 100 meters from that spot. My grandfather used to take us kids there to learn how to swim. We loved it. It was clean, calm, and safer than the river's main current. But that land had an unspoken rule. Never go near the river at noon or at night. No one really explained. They just said, the water ghost lives there. The Manuak, or water ghost, was said to be the spirit of someone who had died tragically in the river. Drowned, caught in a sand pit, capsized boat, or a body that washed into the village. These spirits, according to the elders, never found peace. They'd gather at noon and at night, looking for someone with matching energy to die in their place, offering a life to the river god so they could finally reincarnate. Villagers claimed to hear splashes or laughter by the river in the dead of night. Frog catchers returning late often said they saw pale figures jumping into the water, laughing in strange, high-pitched voices. No one in our village ever went near the river during forbidden hours, except for a few stubborn folks. One of them was my uncle. Uncle D sounds spooky, right? But most people thought it was just superstition, until that day. Uncle D was the center of the story. He had a past. He'd been in and out of prison, known across the village as D-Flat. He hated superstitions, mocked spirits and gods, and once declared, "I've lived in Gia Lam all my life and never seen a ghost, just scared little kids." But fate doesn't care what you believe. It was a hot summer noon, 9 years ago. Uncle D and his younger brother, Uncle C, went out for a swim in the lake. Around noon, Uncle C wanted to go home for lunch, but D waved him off, saying he'd swim a bit longer. Unable to persuade him, C went home alone. Half an hour later, Uncle D hadn't returned. The family started to panic. Then suddenly he showed up, walking back from the riverside. His face was pale, his eyes empty. He walked like a man in a trance. He sat down in the yard, tilted his head to the sky, and burst out laughing. It was a horrible laugh, strange, raspy, and not his own. His eyes twitched. He mumbled things no one could understand. And then a voice came out of him, but it wasn't his. My grandmother screamed, "Who are you?" And the body turned slowly and replied with a broken, raspy voice, "I'm from Haiduong." Silence. My grandmother quietly muttered, "Manoch," and walked out the gate. No one knew where she went. The entity in Uncle D's body introduced himself as Nguyen, a traveling trader who had drowned in the flood of 1996. His soul had wandered the sandbank for nearly 20 years, until he found someone with matching energy to enter. Then, things spiraled out of control. He asked for porridge. They brought him a steaming hot bowl, but right before everyone's eyes, the porridge went cold and spoiled. Instantly. No one had seen him take a bite. He still said he was hungry. He crawled into the kitchen, lifted a 100-kilogram drum of corn, something that normally took 2 grown men, and casually threw it on his shoulder like it was weightless. That was no longer a man. Relatives tried to restrain him, but he tossed them aside like rag dolls. Everyone understood. Uncle D was no longer Uncle D. In the next part, I'll tell you how my tough grandmother returned to confront the spirit using ancient Vietnamese folk rituals, and how a new neighbor who forgot to honor the local spirits ended up hanging himself just days after moving in.